Burundian Political Analyst visiting Cape Town at the moment. He joins us from there. Patrick, talk to us about reports of more people dying in the violence.
Good evening. What I want to say first is that those killings that we observed in the last weekend, they were mainly related to the action of what actually is considered in Burundi as the armed resistance against the regime of President Nkurunziza. So, contrary to what has been said by many international media and some world leaders, according to which in Burundi there is probably an unfolding of a new genocide in the Great Lakes, I want to say that it's really totally different, because what we are actually observing is that there is a violence in the country which is caused by armed groups which are resisting against the regime of Nkurunziza, and the recent violence have been perpetrated by those people, according to some of the reports that I received from people I have talking to in Burundi today.
Now, Patrick, you just mentioned the fact that what Burundians see on the ground is totally different from what the world or the UN is seeing. Now, basically, is there a systematic silence of the opposition as we speak?
For the moment, what I can say is that the majority of what in Burundi now is called the radical opposition is living outside the country. That's the first thing. And the second is that most of what we call the independent media, which have created a space for the opposition to speak out, have been destroyed during the military coup that occurred in May this year during the demonstrations against the candidacy of Pierre Nkurunziza for a third mandate. And most of those people, including the leaders of the civil society, the leaders of opposition parties, most of them have fled outside the country. And this is a reason why, for the moment, we do not hear about the radical opposition in Burundi speaking, because there is no media to help their voice be heard outside. But what I want to say, there is also another internal opposition which is in Burundi, and which many people tend not to mention. This include the party of Agathon Rwasa, who currently is the vice president of the National Assembly. And during the last elections, he came out as the second in those elections in Burundi, which shows that the opposition is divided into groups, one which is working outside the country and another one which is working outside the country. So the two opposition have two different views of the situation, because the one inside the country is trying to work with the government of Burundi, trying to look for solutions. And the one which is outside is trying to show that nothing is working inside the country, and is trying to look for the support of the international community to see if they can push the regime of President Nkurunziza to coming to a dialogue or negotiation or mediation.
Now, Patrick, you mentioned that there is a distinction between internal and external opposition groups, and that they seem to be. Are they speaking with one voice with the government?
The internal opposition is not totally speaking with one voice with the government, but is not using the language of violence, which this is not mentioned outside, especially among the international community, among those who support the opposition, which is actually outside, they tend not to mention that those who are totally against the regime of Nkurunziza, they are supporting violence. Sometimes they do not speak out, they try to hide this support, but they are really supporting the insurgency and the violence, the armed violence or armed resistance, because this is the only way they can put pressure on President Nkurunziza and bring him into a dialogue or on a table of negotiation. Otherwise, there is no way they can push him to do so.
Patrick, is there any reason to worry that violence could result in another civil war between Tutsis and Hutus, divided between tribal lines?
According to my analysis, for the moment, the population of Burundi has resisted any incitement to violence. And for this, I can say really that I have been proud of my population, of Burundi population, because they have really shown a resistance toward any political manipulation, calling them to be involved into violence. And this include Hutu and Tutsi alike. So because since the signing of the Arusha peace agreement, there has been the implementation of the power sharing arrangement, which has helped to ease the Hutu and Tutsi tensions. And this, when you look at this power sharing agreement, you will see that the Hutu have access to 60% of all positions within the government, within the parliament, and the Tutsi have access to 40% within the government and other institutions, which is an over representation of the majority. And this measure has been taken in order to make sure that the minority does not feel threatened. And the other thing is that when you look at the military, the security sector, Burundi army and the police, they are composed equally of 50% of Hutu and 50% of Tutsi. And this also is another measure which has been taken in order to make sure that the minority feel safe. And despite the allegation according to which there have been some desertion within the army or within the police. I recently had the chance to talk to the spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense, and he said that when you look at what happened, it's about like 200 soldiers only who left within an army of more than 40,000, which is really insignificant. So this means that within the army and within the police, the Tutsi and the Hutu can feel that they are really represented. And this in itself diminishes the likelihood of any massive violence. Now, what could cause any violence? For me, it's the position of the international community, which tend to support one side and ignore the other side. This could create a sense of injustice, which finally could trigger violence. And for this reason, I really call onto the international community to be somehow neutral, to be impartial, and call onto the two parties, meaning the Burundi government and the opposition, especially what we call the radical opposition, to sit down and to look for real solution, for sustainable solution for Burundi. Because according to me, it's normally the average population of Burundi which is suffering, and this is really not right. And the really motive of all the violence that we are seeing in Burundi is a struggle of power. It's not an issue about ethnic violence. It's not about there is no threat of genocide unless if it is triggered by some other external actors. But for the moment, according to what I see, there is no reason that Hutu and Tutsi or any other kind of massive violence could happen in Burundi. And also, I want to say that when you see what is going on outside the city of Bujumbura, you will find that the population is still relatively calm. Yes, people have fear. Yes, when you see what is going on in the city of Bujumbura, you see a lot of violence. But you have to understand that this involves what I can call those who are struggling for political power. They are not representing the whole Burundi population. So the other thing I would like to mention is that within the two groups which are fighting for power, people tend to ignore that in the middle there is other voices which need to be heard. The voices calling for reconciliation, voices calling for unity, and voices which do not have this extremist position, which tend really to bring all people together and to preserve peace within the country. But many people tend to put much emphasis or to pay much attention to those extremists outside or inside the country.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your insight. That was the Burundian political analyst Patrick Hajayandi joining us live from Cape Town.